No one in New York ever agreed on when the story truly began. Some said it was a night drowned in heavy rain. Others swore the air was far too dry for November. What everyone agreed on was this. The morning after, the underworld woke up different. A man had vanished without gunshots, without a body, without headlines. And even so, everyone knew exactly who had spoken that night. Because when Dutch Schultz decided to send a message, he never had to repeat it. In the early 1930s, New York was a city held together by shadows. Prohibition was nearing its end, but its poison still ran through every street. Speakeasies stayed open, dirty money changed hands in dim back rooms, and alliances were made with expiration dates. Crime wasn't just a business, it was a language spoken quietly in alleys and behind closed doors. At the center of that world stood Dutch Schultz, a man feared, not for how many bodies he left behind, but for the kind of fate he reserved for those who crossed him. His name alone could change the temperature of a room. Conversations died. Eyes dropped. Decisions were reconsidered. Among all the names that passed through his orbit, one was never forgotten: Joe Rock. Dutch Schultz didn't shout. He didn't give long speeches. He never felt the need to prove himself. His authority came from restraint. Every move was deliberate. Every decision carried weight. His moral code was simple, rigid, and brutally effective. Absolute loyalty was rewarded. Any hint of betrayal had to be erased, not quickly, but precisely. To Dutch, death was too fast, too clean. He believed real power came from turning a man into a warning, someone who kept breathing, but never truly lived again. His name traveled in whispers. When someone said, "Dutch is watching," deals ended immediately. Debts were paid early. Problems vanished without explanation. Joe Rock knew this world well. For years, he drank in the same hidden bars, sat at the same tables, and shook the same hands as Dutch Schultz. He wasn't weak, and he wasn't foolish. He was smart, ambitious, and over time, he began to believe that Dutch was slipping. Joe delayed payments, redirected shipments, spread quiet suggestions that Schultz's grip wasn't as strong as it used to be. Nothing direct, nothing that could be proven, always enough room to deny. But Dutch didn't need proof. He needed certainty, and when he had it, he didn't warn anyone. The abduction happened on the night of November 17th, 1933. Joe got into a car believing he was about to clear up a misunderstanding. In the underworld, tense conversations were still normal. What wasn't normal was the route. Streets grew emptier, buildings more abandoned. Even the smell of the city seemed to change. When the car stopped in front of a forgotten building, Joe understood. This wasn't a meeting, it was an ending. The place itself was unremarkable. Peeling walls, covered windows, a space where time seemed suspended. There were no clocks, no urgency. Dutch Schultz arrived later, as he always did, calm, controlled, like a man handling paperwork. He listened while Joe talked, or rather, he let him talk, explain, justify, plead. Dutch didn't interrupt. Then he spoke a single sentence, quietly. "You confused freedom with permission." What followed was never officially recorded, and it never needed to be. It wasn't fast. It wasn't impulsive. It was designed to dismantle certainty, not just resistance. Dutch wasn't looking for information. He wanted understanding. He wanted Joe to grasp one simple truth. He had crossed an invisible line, and invisible lines are the most dangerous ones. Before leaving, Dutch leaned in and made his philosophy clear. Dying was easy, he said. The hard part was continuing to live after learning who truly held power. Days later, Joe Rock reappeared. Alive, but unrecognizable. Not just physically. Something deeper was gone. His eyes no longer searched rooms, no longer measured threats or opportunities. It was as if he had been disconnected from the world he once navigated so confidently. He never reported anything, never sought revenge, never returned to business. He simply disappeared from the life he once ruled. And that spoke louder than any confession ever could. The story spread fast, each retelling darker than the last. Dutch Schultz never confirmed a single version. He didn't have to. Joe Rock's silence said everything. From that night on, no one tested limits. No one delayed payments. No one mistook ambition for challenge. Dutch hadn't removed a rival. He had educated the entire underworld. But fear collects interest. The greater Dutch's reputation became, the more isolated he grew. Allies smiled while planning. Partners obeyed while wondering if they'd be next. Still, Dutch never regretted it. In his mind, he had done what was necessary to maintain order. Decades later, Joe Rock's name still surfaces in dimly lit bars, always in hushed tones, always without details. Because those who understand the story don't need the ending explained. And Dutch Schultz's name remains etched into the city's memory as a permanent warning. There are men who don't need to kill to destroy a life. And there are fates worse than death.